Hi everyone, today we're going to take a look at my institutional technology plan for an elementary school. So this institutional technology plan was designed for around 500 students and 60 employees, but that could be tweaked a little bit to develop in the framework that you want it to be in, whatever district that is. So I kind of skipped past the executive summary, but it just kind of overviews all of the pieces, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here. So the first piece was software and informational maintenance and security. So this protocol is going to keep everything up to date, and it's also going to maintain security measures and make sure staff and students are monitored at all times possible. So just wanted to point out a few of the main strategies that I am doing. Obviously, you can read through the rest of them as well. The first one, I need to institute contracts with Apple for technology for teachers as well as one-to-one iPads for students. Obviously, you could go with something else as well, but I feel like Apple is just more compatible and user-friendly for elementary kids, whereas if you go the Google route, you're looking at more things like Chromebooks, which involves actual typing, so that might be more suitable for middle school or high school students. But I think for the elementary years, iPads are really, really user-friendly and beneficial, so I really liked that idea. The third one I wanted to point out, installing security software on any and all devices owned by the district. We also need annual checks on security software. I think that this is a big one because sometimes we are only looking at things that teachers are doing, or vice versa, we're only looking at things that students are doing, and we need to be able to monitor all of the devices that are owned by our district in case something comes up to where we need to investigate certain things. We need to train teachers and any staff utilizing technology and how to utilize whatever software it is we're using. In this case, it's Apple, as well as how to indicate if there's issues with the software. I think a lot of times we are only thinking that certain teachers or like classroom instructors are going to use this stuff, but you've got, enrichment teachers, you've got special education teachers, you've got paraprofessionals, you have all these different sorts of people, librarians. Anyone that's using this technology needs to know how to use it and how to indicate if there's an issue with the software and who to talk to with that. So I think that's a big importance. And then the last one I really wanted to zone in on was number 6, and that's to maintain an ongoing digital log for identifying devices that need repair, because that just kind of zones in on we are looking at this technology skills gap and all these different things that go into this and our digital divide, because if something doesn't work, obviously it's going to cause a lot of different mayhem and a lot of different issues that don't need to be there. So we need to make sure that we monitor that stuff and are able to cycle out the technology that no longer works or repair the things that we can. So the next one is the network infrastructure plan. And we need to make sure that the network security and connectivity is happening before students walk into the door. That's the biggest piece. And we need to make sure that it is always working. Obviously, always is a term that never happens, but we wanted to throw it in there because we want to institute a 24/7 learning experience, especially when utilizing technology. Obviously, there'll be time for repairs and times when the internet is down. That stuff happens. We want to make sure we're doing the best we can to ensure that. So the first strategy I had here is to incorporate wired and wireless connectivity throughout the entire district and to test throughout every building and room. That is a huge issue for me when they test. Let's say they're like, okay, I think this room works, so let's move on to the next building. And then you find out that the connectivity is half as good on the other side of the building, but it's too late now because the students are already there, and you know what, we'll just try to make it through the year. And that's not acceptable. So we need to make sure it's applicable through the entire district, because that is no longer fair to half the students in the building. I wanted to point out number 4, teachers and staff are trained on how to access the network as well as how to troubleshoot if there are minor connectivity issues. This drives me crazy. If teachers don't know how to utilize troubleshooting and how to know how to investigate if their internet isn't working correctly, they're going to be calling the IT services every single time their Wi-Fi isn't connected, when a lot of times they just have to disconnect and reconnect or restart their laptop because it's not connecting properly. And they need to know how to do those minor things, and that's something that we think that everybody knows, but they don't. So they need a little bit of development on that sometimes. Wanted to point out number 7 as well, to train IT staff to monitor network security as well as the overall system outlook. Unauthorized access is prohibited, but at the same time, we do have a guest Wi-Fi network as well. Last one I really wanted to point out was number 8. All IT personnel and staff/teachers are trained on network security protocols. There needs to be a direct communication between everyone, so that way network security is a big priority for our students, and everybody remains safe on our network. So that is huge. We can't have half the people in one direction and half the people in the other. And as I said earlier, a guest Wi-Fi needs to be instituted as well for people that are just visiting or parents or whoever it might be. Professional development is a big one. This is talking about how, we need to train not just IT, but staff, teachers, administration on how to utilize technology. What's the point in having something there? And I gave the reference to, that'd be like giving someone a fishing pole but not teaching them how to fish. It's kind of useless to have all this technology if there's no development in there. So the first one I think is important: training teachers and other staff on how to operate technology given to teachers and students. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, I'm going to give the teachers a laptop and the students an iPad, but the teacher only knows how to operate the laptop. Hello? No, that's not going to work correctly. Got to make sure that they are able to operate everything, and they need to know what to use, when to use it, how to use it, where to use it. They need to know all those W's also. We need to make sure that we train teachers on the rules and regulations of copyright and privacy issues when incorporating technology. That goes right into the copyright and fair use laws. You got to make sure that you know those and that the teachers know those and the students know those. Everybody needs to know those. It's not the do as I say, not as I do thing. You got to make sure that you're modeling those behaviors for the kids. So teachers need to know about that. Number 6 says train teachers on technology applications that allow for collaboration, such as Google Classroom. That's just one example of so many different things. There needs to be professional development for teachers and for administration and, for whoever it is utilizing the technology, so that way they can allow for collaboration and communication in the classroom. Last one I wanted to point out was number 8, train teachers on technology's impact in the classroom environment. And we also need to manage student applications and create personalized learning paths. This is not meant to be a tool so that way the students are quiet in stations. There should be a purpose behind this technology rather than just, hey, I'm going to put you on this iPad so you're quiet for a few minutes. Jumping over to the tech support plan, I just wanted to hit a couple little things here. This plan determines how students and teachers follow protocol in the event of a technology issue. So a lot of this stuff was based on training IT personnel to make sure that there's a support log, to create and design email support systems, logistical outlooks on, where there's an issue, who do I contact, what if that personnel is busy, we need to have a plan B in place, what if someone's on vacation, what if someone's sick. You need to have all those things in place. And then finally, training IT members on how to teach teachers certain skills when problems arise, so that next time the instructor may not need to call for support. That drives me insane as well when the obviously there's some cases, as I noted here, that it may not be applicable. If there's a real issue with a computer or iPad, the teacher might not need to learn about it because that's a little bit beyond them. But for little minor things, I think it's important that IT are trained on how to teach it, so that way when that problem arises, there's less issues next time. Budget and auditing is a big one. We need to make sure that we have a good budget and that we can have repair to purchase items happening before the next school year. So just kind of went through, I wanted to point out a couple big ones. Number 3 says remove unwanted or broken items that are no longer in use from the database. So we're coming up with a database and auditing it annually, and we want to make sure that we remove any materials that are no longer used or that are just unwanted or broken. And we also want to utilize the budget allotted to ensure that all cables and security is placed so that there's no little tear or wear on any of the systems that we're using. And we also want to make sure that we continually update, or if needed, switch the agreement or the contract that is met for our tech usage. So if you are having a contract with Apple, you don't want to have the same iPads for 100 years because after a while those iPads kind of go obsolete, the software is no longer working, and you get into a situation where half the applications are no longer supported, and now you have all this technology and no use for it. So you want to make sure that you constantly update that, so that needs to be in the budget as well. As far as procurement and disposal, this is kind of self-explanatory, but I did go into a couple things. I wanted to read a few of them. We need to train staff on how to determine the value of technology products, as well as how to contact providers. But this is also more of an IT thing when you're purchasing bigger bulk items. We also need to create and follow protocols in accordance with who and where to buy from underneath the vendor handbook, which I had stated earlier. As far as disposal goes, we need to have a step-by-step plan on where personnel dispose of the technology, who they give it to, is it an inter-office mail, and all of that good stuff. We need to make sure that IT members log it and then dispose of it properly, so that way we don't get in trouble as well. As far as the communication plan goes, this is really not just for the technology plan, this should be for anything. Everybody needs to be on the same page as far as, reporting issues, outages. If there's professional development opportunities, how do you communicate that to teachers and staff? Making sure that tools and protocols for signing up for workshops and all that stuff is on our website. Communicating that you need support in the technology and classroom. Who do you contact for that? All those systems need to be set up before the school year begins, and everybody needs to have knowledge on where to find that stuff and who to go to for those things. Hardware maintenance, again, a little bit more self-explanatory, but we need to replace damaged, non-functioning, or out-of-date technology and software. We need to have an up-to-date informational library on the hardware maintenance and security that we currently are possessing. And we also need to train IT on testing functionality of hardware, and we need to make sure that we're repairing technology as needed. We don't want to go for a few months at a time and be like, hey, you know what, I'll just wait till a few more need to be fixed, because then that's going to end up just being a major issue. So I've given a brief overview as to kind of what my institutional technology plan covers, and I hope you guys enjoyed that and you got some information. If you have any questions, let me know.